Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Brunswick's Best, where Lance takes a look at the greatest players in Minnesota Vikings history, numerically, one after the other. This week, taking a look at those who have worn the number 31. So why don't you lay that list on us there, Lance?
I got it. This week's number wasn't really that great of a number as far as Vikings history goes. So I got a list of guys that did fairly well in their time here, but nothing too crazy, anyways. So I got a list of guys here for you, and first on that list is none other than Clancy Osborne. He played for the Vikings inaugural team after coming over from the San Francisco 49ers. Osborne was second on the team in interceptions in the Vikings' first season with 4. Rip Hopkins had 5 and started 22 of his 28 games for the team over his 2 seasons in Minnesota. He left the team following the 1962 season and played for 2 seasons with the Raiders before he was done with football. Clancy, this week, you get a name on the list. Moving right along with none other than Rick Feeney. He was drafted by the Vikings in the 8th round of the 1987 NFL Draft and played his entire 5-year career for the Vikings. Primarily used as a fullback, Feeney was second on the team in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in 1989, which was his most productive season. He also had 30 receptions that year, and that was good for 4th highest on the team. Rick Feeney, you get a mention this week on Brunswick's Best. Next up, we have a former Charger that ended up finding his way into the Viking squad, and that is none other than running back Scotty Graham. This guy had a decent run as a Viking, at least for a couple of seasons anyways. A midseason signing in 1993 following an injury to Robert Smith. Graham wound up leading the Vikings in rushing that season despite playing just 7 games and starting only 3 of those. He wound up sticking with the Vikings for a total of 4 seasons. Scotty, you get a mention on this week's Brunswick's Best. And last but not least, a name that most of us are probably familiar with, and that is none other than Jerick McKinnon. Now, Jerick spent most of his career here in Minnesota behind none other than the great Adrian Peterson, and did a good job at that as a spellback to him. And had a few standout games where he took it, upon himself to get some good games under his belt as well. He was drafted out of the 3rd round out of good old Georgia Southern by the Vikings in the 2014 NFL Draft. The pick was actually obtained as part of the Percy Harvin trade to Seattle in 2013. As a rookie, McKinnon led the Vikings with a 4.8 yard per carry average and ranked second on the team in rushing yards despite only playing in 11 games with 6 starts. McKinnon led the team for the 2nd straight season in yards per carry with a 5.2 average and logged the career high 3 total touchdowns in his 2nd year. In year 3, Adrian went down with a meniscus tear, and McKinnon and Asiata finished the season as a 1-2 punch. Overall, in 15 games in his 3rd season, McKinnon finished with 539 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 43 receptions, 255 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. McKinnon would suit up for the purple and gold for one more season, accumulating a career-high 570 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, along with 51 receptions for 421 yards and 2 touchdowns to finish his career here in Minnesota. McKinnon would go on to play a season in San Francisco. I think was it a 2-year deal in San Francisco? I don't think he really played much when he was there. I know he got injured the year that he got signed with the ACL. But he continues to play to this day for none other than your Kansas City Chiefs down there in Missouri. So with that being said, that concludes this week's Brunswick's Best.
Hey, short and sweet list this week, but some familiar names on there nonetheless. So, hey, they can't all be number 93 or something like that, with all the...
Right.
Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Reminder, regular studio show Friday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. Lance and I will be talking about some more draft and free agency type stuff, any news that comes out, and of course having a look. There's some kind of a big game this weekend, I think, coming up.
Yeah, you don't say.
No, the Pro Bowl was last weekend, so it's not that. But yeah, of course. Anyway, we will also talk about the Super Bowl coming up Sunday between San Francisco and Kansas City. So stay tuned for that as well. Join us. Appreciate everybody for watching, and you guys have a great rest of your week. Kick us out, Lance.
Yeah, we'll see you next week with another episode of Brunswick's Best 32 coming up. Also, before I let you go, McKinnon started his career at 31, but ended it at what? What was it? 25? No, 21. Yes, 25 with Murray. Yeah, 25 was Murray the year that. Okay, yep.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah, 31 to start, 21 to finish, then off to San Francisco. But anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys all enjoyed this week's Brunswick's Best. We'll see you next week with 32. SKOL.
We're doing it right.
A lot of commercials, even though they won the Super Bowl, even by their star, Montana or Rice. But the fact is, a very focused group that is very much believes in winning.
Rick Fenny, touchdown, Minnesota. So the fullback who grew up in Snohomish, Washington, and played for the University of Washington, gets the first touchdown for the Vikings today.
But he certainly, before this thing is up, he's going to have to make some big ones.
And McKinnon's going to break one. He may break it all the way. Jerick McKinnon in a foot race. And he'll win that one for a touchdown. That's 68 yards.
Talk about patience. Looked like Le'Veon Bell on that one. He just basically stood behind a pile of offensive linemen. Got a little bit of a push from the backside, eventually down here. But watch him just stand right about there. He comes to a complete stop. Everybody sort of relaxes, and then here he goes. He can run. He is fast. He's a guy that they just want to have somebody that can break out. Look at this. He almost comes to a complete stop, finally sees the opening, and then he is gone.